Hello, and welcome to episode number 6 of the Marriage Coach Podcast, where we are here to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving.
Today on the Marriage Coach Podcast, we're going to be dealing with the F6 accounts. Utilize all 6 of these accounts and F your marriage. So we'll be back right after this.
Remind you to hit the subscribe button wherever you are watching. And remember to turn on the notifications so you'll know each time we upload a podcast. And we're asking that you would like and give us a big thumbs up to help get the word out. So we first learned about the F6 accounts. They were originally called the F6 Gold. And we amped it up and used it for Team Francis, and we now call it the F6 account. We know that accounts can have deposits, they can have withdrawals, they can be in good standing, or they can be insufficient. And what we want to talk about is these 6 F accounts in your marriage and how to prioritize these accounts so that you're keeping them leveled out so that none of the accounts are depleted or find themselves insufficient.
Right. Because you want to keep your accounts full.
Right.
You want every account to be full. You don't want to have one account full and then the other account
insufficient or depleted.
Yeah, you want something in every last one of them.
Absolutely.
So that's what it's called, a balance. You want to balance everything out to make sure every account is equally having something entering into it. You want to put something into each account.
And it's important to pay attention to each account. So when we look at it as an account, come on, all of us do online banking, or even if we don't do online banking, you get a monthly statement that tells you monthly where your account is. And so we find it important as a couple to look at these accounts on a regular basis because we want to know where these accounts are. We want to know what's in the account. What have we withdrawn from the account? What have we deposited into the account? Where is that account leveling off at? And we want to be able to, we have to pay attention to that in order to know what's going on.
Right. Absolutely. Because with each thing, and we're going to get into the different accounts, but with the accounts, all of them start with an F. So with the F accounts, what's so important is when you have an indication of what you need to put into something, you're most likely able to accomplish it if you know it's there. There's a saying that said, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. So what we're trying to do in this particular episode is to help marriages go from just kind of wondering, and then the next thing you know, people wander into the divorce because there's lacking in the relationship, and now you're lacking out of love because you're so more focused on money and more focused on your career than you are with your marriage. And not even your marriage, but even your children. Then you become more, let's say, for instance, you focus on your job and your career, the husband and wife, we both can be focused on the career, but then the children are lacking.
Your family is suffering because...
And now the kids are acting out in school and you're wondering why. The whole point is to keep everything intact. So you want every account, you want to put a little bit into every single account.
So as we discuss these 6 F accounts today, we want you to take a look at these. Take notes, get your pen and a paper. Make sure you like this podcast, like this YouTube video so that you can go back and revisit it and check on your accounts. Write it down and keep a watch on your F6 accounts the same way. Your 6 F accounts, watch them the same way you watch your bank account, and there will be improvement.
Yeah, share this information with your family and friends. I'm telling you, it's not only going to be beneficial to you, but it'll be beneficial to your loved ones.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we have the F6 accounts. So what's the number 1 account?
The first F6 account is faith.
Faith. Okay,
And
unpack that.
faith is the foundation. It's what your relationship is built on, what your marriage is built on. It's what you believe. It's what you do together, how you express what you believe.
Right.
Whatever your faith is, whatever your belief is, we have already expressed and shared that we are believers. We believe in Christ, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And
Absolutely.
we pay attention to that account being full.
Yeah.
And as a couple, as a unit, as a family, you want to deposit into your faith account. If you are people of faith, if you believe in God, if you believe in assembling together with other believers, how do you express that? How are you together growing your faith? How are you standing on your faith? Is that what your marriage, your relationship, your parenting, whatever it is that the foundation for it?
Right.
And so with your faith account, you want to have ways that you're depositing into your faith account. How do you deposit into your faith account? You read your word, you worship, you pray, you grow together, you study together. However you and your significant other choose to express your faith, whatever your foundation is, you want to invest time into that because it gives you strength.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember. I remember back when I was uh, old pastor used to say, "A family that prays together stays together."
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely agree. With faith. Faith is, you have to rally the family together. Everybody on the same
Yes.
page. Everybody on one accord. Learning together.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing when you have one person, the relationship is growing, and the other person is not. Especially when you're talking about faith. It can definitely be frustrating or whatever. So first of all, even in a relationship, that's one of the questions. If you are engaged or if you're single and you're seeking to be married soon, that's one of the questions you want to ask in a
Ask
relationship.
up front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to ask that. Basically, what is your faith? What do you believe?
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe? Because if you believe one thing, they believe something else.
And the Bible says that how can two walk together except they agree?
Absolutely.
And so when it comes to faith, and you said something that I think is very important. We include the whole family. It's not just you and I, it's the whole family. We all worship together, we pray together, we do a devotional each and every year where we're going through the Bible, and the kids are on that devotional. They're teenagers, but they're on that devotional because our family, our relationship is a unit and is connected to those who live in our household, which is our family. And we want everybody to be depositing into that faith account. We want our kids to have that same foundation. We want the children that are growing up in our household
Right.
to have that foundation, that they have something to build on when they leave here. And we express that faith by worshiping God always. And we come together with other believers on Sunday and we express that belief.
Right. And I do want to say this. I do have a disclaimer. Because I don't want anybody, want to separate with your spouse because somebody go to church and somebody don't go to church.
No.
Because I'm gonna have to back up and I'm gonna say
time.
back when we first got married. We first got married. I was in the military. You went to church every week, and I didn't. I didn't go to church right away. I grew up in church, but I wasn't really for whatever my other reasons we can talk about on a different podcast. But I wasn't really going to church. So I do want to say that. So I do have that disclaimer. Just because your spouse, one of the other, not interested in church at this point. As a believer, just continue to pray for them. Continue to keep them lifted up. Get you and don't pressure them.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Because
if you're already married and you're a believer and you adamantly go to church, you go to worship,
you do your part.
You do your part.
You love Christ through yourself.
Exactly. And be the example before
right.
them without harping on what they should do or what you think should be done. Just be the example, because if you're already married, you've already made a vow to that person, and they most likely wasn't going to church when you married them, or if they only went to go with you, whatever the situation may be, give them time to come into their own. And I believe that if you keep depositing into that faith account, you will see results of it regardless. I mean, I feel like we are a living example of that. And not that, I mean, you grew up in church, I grew up in church, but most of the time when you grow up in church, once you get older, you do that. You have your time away, or you like, oh, I don't have to do all that, whatever it may be. But as a spouse, as a significant other, as a person in a relationship, you express how important it is to you, but you just be a living example and keep going and keep praying for the couple.
And this
the family.
This is the last thing before we move on to the second one. This typically happen with women. What you typically do, the woman is in church, and the woman go home, and the woman want to preach the sermon to the to the spouse on what particular thing happened, and also want to beat your spouse over the head from what the preacher said. You can't do that. Right. You can't do that. Continue to show love.
Yeah, just be the living example. Yeah. You are the best. If your significant other is not where you are when it comes to your faith, your foundation, they probably have been there for a while, and you know that. So you keep living the life before them. And whatever your faith is, it should have some good foundation. It should have something about kindness, something about love. Right. And you should express that to your spouse, and let your prayers, let you walking out your faith, let that be an example to them, to reel them in. If they are not participating in a coming together or the assembly like you would like for them to, then you should be the expression of that to them, and just keep loving them.
All right. So the first account is faith. So what's the second account?
The second account is family and friends.
All right.
And in this account, we look at their role, your family and friends. We look at their role in your life and the time that you invest with family and friends. We look at their role and the time you invest, because what we know is that sometimes this is the part of a marriage or a relationship that could get a little sticky. When it comes to family, whether it's your parents, your children, your friends, your best friends, your high school friends, whatever it is, or your adult friends, when it comes to family and friends, sometimes this can become really, really sticky in a marital relationship or in a dating relationship. So we think it's important for you to know in this account what each person's role is and the designated time you will put into that other relationship. We don't want to be the wife where the husband is saying you spend too much time at your mama house.
Absolutely.
You always at your sister house. You always over there. You might as well live over there. Or you always gone with them. You never have time for me. And the vice versa for the husband or the boyfriend or the fiance. Whatever you are, you don't want your spouse to say you always playing basketball with your brothers. You always playing video games with your friends. You always going out with whoever. Right. You want to, in this account, the family and friends account number 2, you want to identify each person in your life, their role that they play, and the amount of time that you and your spouse agree equally to spend and invest in those other relationships.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, it's very important. I mean, it's very important to have, friendship, someone that you can, you can talk to besides your spouse,
right.
Or, whether you choose to hang out or even doing, couples thing. I mean, we have a couple that, we before COVID, spend time with and did things with.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's definitely fun, to kind of bring a like-minded couple, into the relationship. So that's very important. But the problem is when you're doing it too much, when, fellas, when it's all about basketball and going to the gym, playing basketball, whatever the case may be, or your video games, and then, neglecting your wife, and, it's not really healthy, and you're not putting a lot into the account, because now your friendship account is full, but
your family
family
account,
account.
or your spouse is just feeling like they're not a part of it because you're giving more time to your friends than you are to them. And that can go for a wife, male or female. That can go for both parts. Maybe, a woman is always shopping with her girls, and, you're not spending any time with your husband or with the kids or whatever it may be. You want to, in every relationship, you want to identify each person's role that they play in your life and the amount of time that you're spending with them, investing into those relationships, depositing into those accounts. And as he stated, it is good for you to have friends. You need to, have somebody that you can go get out of the house with, go shopping with. If you're a guy that plays video games, you need somebody to play video games with, or somebody to go shoot a couple of hoops with. That is fine. But you don't, what we just said from the beginning of the podcast, you don't want any account to get so full that is in overflow. Okay, that one is in overflow. That's great. It's in overflow. My friendship account is in overflow, but my family account is lacking, or my faith account is lacking, or any of the other accounts that we'll mention is lacking. So this is again about harmony and balance, putting enough into each account and making sure that you understand both for family and friends where they play. It can also be a difficult thing with parents because sometimes once you get married, it can be difficult for some people to venture out on their own and become who you're supposed to be without having your parents involved in everything. And when you're married, your parents are not supposed to be involved in everything. Your parents should not be making decisions for you. Your parents should not be deciding things for your family. If you are married, you're in a marital relationship, those decisions need to be made by you and your spouse. Whatever choices need to be made by you and your spouse. So the family and friends account is important to know their role and the amount of time invested in them. And I would like to add also the amount of access you will give them to your relationship.
Right. I mean, some of us are fortunate with parents that has a lot of wisdom that they can bring to the relationship. So
right.
if that is the case in the relationship, I'm talking where they're not biased, and they're really sharing wisdom to the husband and wife. I mean, that's great. I think that's an awesome thing to have, whether it's parents, grandparents, pastor, counselor, or a close friend that once again with wisdom,
Absolutely.
that can be a help to your marriage. All right, so the second account, is family and friends. So what's the third account?
The third account is finance, money and saving.
Okay.
So in the finance account, you want to take a look at, it's important to know, how do we make money? How do we spend money? How we have to have a plan on how to save money. We have to have a plan to control our debt, to control how we're spending, to control what we're saving, to make sure that we are prepared for things that come up in the future. Oftentimes, finances can be a big problem in a marital relationship, especially if you don't have a plan. If you don't have, it could be a problem in any relationship, between a man and a woman, whether you're dating or married. If you don't have a plan for how your money is spent, that can turn into a problem. If you don't discuss, how you're saving, that can become a problem because, we've experienced even in our marriage, one, in the beginning, he's always been a saver. I'm the spender. I'm like, I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to pay the bills and spend the rest. But there came a time in life when I realized that at that point, you're constantly withdrawing from the financial account, which is what caused us to be in debt. And now there was like, okay, how do we get out of this? How do we get from this paycheck to paycheck situation? The only way to get from this paycheck to paycheck situation, like he discussed in the opening, is for us to focus on the finance account. Absolutely. What are we putting into this account? Absolutely. What is the plan for how we save money? Yeah. What is the the plan for an emergency? What is the plan for a rainy day? What is the plan for if someone should die? You do not want your spouse to have become accustomed to living this certain life. Maybe you all have bought a home, you have cars, and you maybe your finances are great and they're okay. I don't want to say great. They're okay. Your finances are okay. And your spouse has become accustomed to living this life. And God forbid, if you leave this earth, now your spouse and your children have to adjust. They have to move into an apartment. They have to lose things because there was no preparation for when you die. So, when
let me add to that, because
okay.
I know you mentioned saving and money in general.
Saving, emergencies.
But you also have credit.
Yes.
Credit is important. You also have investment.
Absolutely.
And you also have insurance. I mean, all these things are very important, and I will put in the finance category.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's the whole, it's anything that has to do with
assets,
money or assets or anything like that will go into the finance account.
Absolutely.
So and also finance account, if you're working a job, you're making money. And sometimes, overtime is required. Sometimes you want overtime. Sometimes people want overtime just to survive. Sometimes people want overtime to have more money to save. Some people work overtime to have money for vacation. Whatever the case may be, the whole point is bringing in and focusing on the finance, and something else is lacking. We want to make sure that everything is evenly and that there is a balance. Or if you do have a case, like I said, what happened with us, if you have a case in your relationship where you come up with a plan. For us, it was 2 years. 2 years we went all in finance. I mean, it was a lot of other accounts, fund, which next one, fund accounts. And a lot of accounts.
And sometimes even the family account was lacking during that time because we were both working. I was working from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You were traveling and going around the world doing your job, but that was because that finance account was in trouble, and it needed to be rescued because
special attention.
It did, and it needed that special loving. It needed that special attention because we did not know what we are now sharing with you. And so you are at a great advantage if you are watching this podcast, if you are listening to this podcast, you're watching on YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening, you are at a great advantage because wherever you are, you're getting this information right now, and you can begin to apply it. In the finance account, you want to think about investments. You want to think about insurance. You want to think about money. You want to think about saving. You want to think about retirement. You want to think about all of these things that has to deal with money and assets and even your family, because if something happens to you, because your finance account is in a good place, because you have paid attention and been intentional about depositing into your finance account, because you've been intentional about having a plan and structuring a plan to keep your financial account overflowing, or at least in a sufficient state, or better off than it was ever before. When you have come to be able to save, to have money for emergencies, you control your credit to purchase things like a home or make investments, then you are in a good place. And if something happens to you, then you want to be the person that also have a plan in place for your family to keep going forward after you're gone. And even if nothing happens to you as such as dying, you could get sick. Anyone could get sick at any time. And if your finances change because you had this plan and because you put this money up and because you saved and you were actively depositing into your finance account, you're ready for what you have to face. A flat tire or a sickness or being off from work or, a change in pay or anything of that nature, a change in business.
I mean, even right now, we're dealing with COVID-19.
Exactly. And there are changes. Exactly.
People are being laid off from work. I was being cut.
Absolutely. And if there was not proper deposits into your financial account, you're feeling the press of it now. Because when things change in our lives, it always affects the finances. So we want to make sure that the finance account is in good standing so that when hard times come, when emergencies come, when shifts in life come, in insurance on the job, they call it what? Change of something they call it.
But this is the thing. So even so, and I want to say this: we're in the pandemic right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're in the financial crunch, if let's say, I mean, okay, I didn't know this at first, and my life is right here. You know, I really, my heart go out to you and your
Absolutely.
family. You know,
Yes.
I definitely wish you all the success. You know, I can't wait till this the situation turn around. You know, so we can rebuild our lives together. So if you're in that position where, I mean, you're in the position now where it's okay. I didn't save up for a rainy day. I mean, I want to let you know it's going to be
It's
okay.
okay.
It's going to
Yeah.
be okay, and this is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the road.
Absolutely.
But
And
what I want you to do, I want you to take this right here, take this whole thing where we're talking about the finance part because it's very important. You know, just make sure you know in the future because it's a thing. You know, COVID-19 happened then. Prior to COVID-19, we had 2008.
the
Prior to
market crash.
2000, the market crash. Prior to 2008, we had 9/11. Then
Mm-hmm.
we had early 90s and the 80s. I mean, it was always something that kind of shifted the economy. You know, so speaking of that, even if we're in COVID-19 right now, I want to let you know when it's all over with, when things begin to build back, when you're able to be in a position where you can build in your life. Remember to think about this financial part
Mm-hmm.
because this is very, very,
Right,
very
right, right,
important,
right.
you know, for your family, for your kids, you know, even finance, you know, as far as, you know, if you're planning for your child to go to college or whatever the case may be, you know, we want to make sure we're put into that financial account because it would definitely save you. It would save you stress, time, and money in your future. So I just want to let you know again, it's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
again. I mean, we're in COVID right now, but it's going to happen again. That's the bright side of what we call failure. Is when you fail, you can learn from
Learn.
it
Mm-hmm.
and move
And
on and
move forward. Mm-hmm.
don't do what don't repeat the situation
Right,
again.
right, right,
So
right.
I like I say my heart go out to you and
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is a great time to hear this information so that you will be prepared.
yeah.
If if you are at the point where you will have to be in a rebuilding state in the future, then you now have the information right at the perfect timing so that when things are better in your life, when you have a different, when you see the light of day, when something turns around, then you'll have you'll be equipped to move forward and to do what you need to do with your finance account.
Okay, so we're halfway through now. So
Mm-hmm.
the first account is faith,
Mm-hmm.
second account is friends and family, third account is finance. What's the fourth account?
And the fourth account is fun.
Okay.
Listen, they always say work hard, play hard.
Mm,
And we are talking about fun and entertainment and outings. We're talking about the fun account is the things that you do with your family that makes memories. It's
absolutely.
the things that you do with your spouse that makes memories. It's the things that you do with your loved one, with your significant other that makes memories. It's those, the fun account is whatever you all like to do together, whatever it is that makes you laugh, whether that's going to movies, going to a comedy show, whether that's shopping, whether it's whatever it is that you all enjoy to do for fun, playing basketball or going playing volleyball, whatever, family days, picnics, trips to the beach, whatever it is, that's what's in, these are the things that are in the fun account. So the fun account is about entertainment,
Right.
outings, vacations. It's time together with those that you love in your relationship, your significant other, your children. And it's the things that you do that make memories, because the things that we do in those times when we laugh so hard, those memories last a lifetime. So we definitely want to be intentional about depositing into the fun account.
Right. Fund accounts is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I remember growing up, me and my family. I don't remember everything about my childhood, but I remember when my mother, my father, me and my family, my brother, we went to Lake Houston.
Yeah.
Actually, right here on the corner now. But
Yeah.
Lake Houston, went to Lake Houston. We had a picnic under the tree. I mean, that's a memorable thing.
Absolutely.
It's not a lot I remember, but I remember those memories. Things like that. Me and my dad. When we were in the water, we were swimming in Lake Houston, and those memories you'll never forget. It's like etched in our mind. So you definitely, I mean, having fun, making memories, is what we want to do. That's very important because a lot of times we all play. I mean, we all work
And
and
no
no
play.
play, and you got to
Absolutely.
have some play. You
You
got to
gotta
have play
have
for
both.
yourself.
You gotta have both
I
in
mean,
your
even
life.
myself. I mean, prior to COVID, I was COVID-19. I was bowling. I had got really big into bowling. I used to go to bowling every week. But I don't even know if the bowling alley is open right now. But regardless, I went back to golf. I went back to the outdoors. Where I can. It's almost natural to social distance yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I done got back into golf. So I'm doing things for fun. So find that thing, find that hobby, find that thing that makes you smile, that energizes you, to have fun. If it's video games, whatever it is. But here's the thing: you don't want to be playing too much video games, and then you're lacking in other areas. You don't want to. I don't want to play too much golf, and then I'm lacking in other areas.
Right,
I mean,
right,
I
right.
have to balance it out. And what I love about these F6 goals is it allows me, because here it is at the end of the week, it allows me to look at everything and be like, okay, what did I spend my time at this week? What did I spend my time on? And so if something was lacking this week, I know next week I need to put some energy into that. So that's why it's good to write it down, have it down, and then evaluate it every week to see where you are.
Absolutely. And in the fun account, like he said, you want to continue to make memories. The fun account
Right.
is it's the fun. So, even during this pandemic and this time that we've been in, we still came up with ways to have to create fun with the kids. We came up with ways to have fun time with the family. We've came up with ways with the family, meaning all the people that live in our household. It's because they're in the house for so long. We've been in the house for a while, so we had to get very creative about depositing into the fun account. So we began to do things like movie night and cooking food together with the kids or doing things of that nature. So we want to just find, and it doesn't have to be about spending money. You can find, remember when we were kids, board games and hopscotch and chalking, sidewalk chalk and things of that nature, just sitting outside listening to music, talking, sharing
Yeah.
stories with your kids. Whatever it is, it can be fun. If you're laughing, it's fun. Telling jokes, we've families gotten together and we video each other's lip singing with our cell phones, and that's fun.
All
So
right.
be intentional, especially in times like this. Be intentional about depositing into your fun account.
All right.
Finance,
Number 4.
fun,
Ooh, what's number 5?
forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Okay. All
Yes,
right. So
yes.
let's take our time with this. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. The forgiveness account is about letting go. The
Mm,
things that you need to let go of. Letting go of past hurts and pain. Is there something that you need to forgive your spouse for?
yeah.
Is there something you need to forgive your significant other for?
Mm,
Is there someone in your life, whether it's a parent, a old friend, an old boyfriend, an old girlfriend, your child's father, your child's mother, whatever it is, somebody from a previous relationship? Think this account it's a tough one, but it's very much
it's hard. It's hard.
necessary. It's you sitting down and thinking about the things that you need to let go of. Because here's why this account is important and paying attention to the deposits into this account. Sometimes the lack of forgiving someone else can cause damage to a current relationship.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the lack of letting go of the hurt from someone else causes pain in the current relationship. For instance, if a significant other cheated on you before and now you're questioning your spouse every time they leave the house because you you think they're cheating, or because not because you think they're cheating, because you think it's possible that they could be cheating because the person cheated.
And sometimes you think they cheating, and that was a prior relationship where you were cheated on, and now this person has to suffer.
Yeah, and that's
for
what
it.
I mean. That's what I mean. I'm talking about.
It wasn't clear.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just spouse cheating on you and your thing. I'm talking about boyfriend cheated on you 5 years ago, broke your heart. Y'all was supposed to get married. Now you're married to a wonderful person, or to a man that's trying to be the best he can be, and you can't enjoy him because you keep thinking about him. And that's a problem. You can't enjoy her because you keep thinking about her. And that's a problem. So the forgiveness account is very, very, it's tough, but it's important because
it's necessary.
Very much necessary.
Nelson Mandela said this quote that I love the quote. It says, unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting and waiting on the person to die. And that's what unforgiveness is. I mean, it's you're the one that's dying.
Yeah.
You're the one that's dying. You owe it to yourself. I mean, it's not about the person that offended you. You owe it to yourself to forgive the person. You're forgiving the individual for you. You're forgiving them for you. If you don't forgive them, you're not hurting them. Some people listen. I know. Please listen to me. I'm not trying to make this like
not minimize it.
You know,
the hurt was real. The pain was real.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to minimize it in any kind of way. I'm not trying to minimize the pain, the hurt, the suffering. I'm not trying to minimize it in any way. But I do have to let you know that unforgiveness is hurting you. Some people have moved on with their lives. Yes, he cheated on you. Yes, she cheated on you. But now she's remarried and she done moved on with her life, and you still going on Facebook upset because of what happened. You can't even move on with your life. Every time you get on Facebook, you're going through their account, looking at how they're going on vacation, and they just bought a car, and now you're thinking like, man, I wish it was me. But it's like, man, it's time to let go.
He didn't do that. She didn't do that when we was together.
Exactly. Let go and move on. Let go and move on.
Right.
Let go and move on. Let go. I'm gonna say it again. Let go and move on.
And sometimes this account it goes further. The need to forgive goes back even further than that. Sometimes it's your parents. It's a grandmother, a grandfather, somebody that hurt you in the past. Something that was said, something that was done. Maybe, you were touched inappropriately. And again, just like he said, in no means are we trying to minimize what happened to you, what they did to you. It was wrong. We're acknowledging that whatever it is, the hurt, the pain, it is real. Yeah. It happened. And now if it is affecting your current relationships and causing problems, which it does, if we're holding on to the anger, the pain, and the unforgiveness. So now you have to begin to search and find ways to let that go, to release that person of a debt. Not that they are going to apologize. They may not. Not that, they don't deserve it. All of that is understood. But like he said, the reason why you are choosing to forgive them and let them go so that you can find freedom. You're letting the situation go. He didn't do right by you. You had a child for him. He didn't stay and help you raise the child. But you're letting that go because now you're in a relationship with someone who's taking care of that child like he's their father. And you won't even let him be father to the child because you're that unforgiveness has tainted and caused you to be bitter. Yeah. So you're acting out. Maybe your father wasn't there for you or your mother wasn't there for you. And whoever it is, male or female, and now you're responding to the significant other out of the pain that someone else called for you. The thing calls for you, you're responding to the pain. You're responding to your significant other from the pain that somebody else caused. And that's unfair to them. And this account has to be reconciled. When something is wrong with an account, we want it to be reconciled, which means we go line by line by line to figure out where it went wrong and how can we fix it. And if it was someone wronging you, now it's the time to begin to work on letting it go so that I can present the best version of myself in this relationship. And my spouse will be free to love me in the way that they are willing to love me. And they'll be free to be the person that they desire to be to you and for for you because you're giving them that freedom. Unforgiveness, the holding on to unforgiveness is a very bad thing, and it causes so much detriment. Sometimes things we can't even see because you don't know. You keep thinking that they wronged you somehow because you're finding little things in the new person to connect to the old person, and you're creating this story to turn it into something else.
And that's the truth. If you focus on it, you're gonna see it.
If you focus on the negative, it could be this small. It's gonna get this big,
exactly,
and it's gonna keep getting bigger because you keep looking at it. And
have you ever thought about this? Think about times. I remember vehicles we've had. We purchase vehicles, and before you get the vehicle, you don't see them.
Don't see it anywhere.
You don't see them anywhere. I mean, matter of fact, you at the car lot, you think you probably one of the only
first ones to get.
Right. I mean, because you don't see them. But once you get that vehicle, now it changes. It changes your focus. It changes your perspective. Now you see things different, and now you see the vehicle everywhere. You know, and that's the same thing. Even relationships. Sometimes we think our spouse is a bad spouse, and the truth of the matter is, maybe they're not really that bad. You just focusing and thinking that they're that bad, and by you thinking them they're that bad based on something that you haven't let go of. And you mentioned something earlier when you said free. A lot of time unforgiveness is like bondage. You're in bondage. And here it is. You're in bondage, and everybody you connect to in bondage as well. Soon as they come around you, now they got shackles on their hands. Your friends in bondage, your husband in bondage, your children in bondage. Free yourself so you can free everyone you love. Absolutely. Because hurt people, and we don't want to hurt anyone. That's people. Listen to me. I'm not talking about you. I'm trying to help you. There's people. You on your 5th, 6th divorce. You're in your 5th and 6th relationship. Slow down and think. Is this because maybe perhaps I'm holding on to unforgiveness of something that happened when I was a teenager and is affecting every relationship I'm in? Maybe. I mean, you done had 50 million jobs. And you're 50 million jobs, and you thinking everybody else the problem. Every job you work at, the company is always the company fault. It's always the co-worker's fault. Nobody like me. Everybody is a hater. Come on, everybody's not a hater in your life. Everybody's not. I know people like that. Right. Every time anything come out their mouth, people hating on them about this, hating on me about my marriage, hating on me about my relationship. Oh, I just bought a car. Oh, you hating on me, man. People ain't even thinking about you. I mean, I'm listen. I'm not. I mean, you balling out of control. I'm not trying to dish you in any way. But what I'm saying, you're focused on that. Most people don't even care. They don't care. You are suffering from unforgiveness. You're suffering from hurt. You're suffering from something bigger than what you call a hater. The truth of the matter is, you may be the biggest hater in your life. You may be your biggest hater. So forgiveness is very important. Please listen to me. Let it go. Let it go. Don't hold on to it, because when you hold on to it, your spouse suffer and your children suffer.
Absolutely. And one other thing before we move to the next account, in forgiveness. If your spouse is the one you need to forgive, maybe they did cheat on you, maybe they did lie to you, maybe they did wrong you, but if you've chosen to remain in the relationship, you've chosen to remain in relationship with them, and you said you were going to forgive them, we're going to work it out. You need to dig deep and be able do the work to forgive them. If you choose to remain with them, do the work to forgive them. If it's a situation that cannot be forgiven, that's a whole nother podcast. If you're to that point, that's a whole nother podcast. But if you have elected to forgive them and stay, you have to really do the work to forgive them. You can't keep bringing it up in every situation. Every time you get upset, you want to bring up what they did wrong. You can't do that. No. You can't keep regurgitating it every time they don't do what you want them to do. If you have elected to remain in the relationship and you said you would forgive them or you can move forward, then you need to do the work to do that, which means you need to deposit into your forgiveness account. Be intentional about depositing into your forgiveness account. We do the work to forgive.
Yeah, and you say be intentional about it because this is one of the accounts that we less likely to
deposit in.
in. This is most likely the number one account we're less likely to deposit in because it's a dark place. Because it's a dark place. It's a hurtful place. It's a painful place. It's a place
and most of the time we don't want to go there. We don't want to go back there. I don't even want to dig into that to get back to how I got here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it brings back some emotions that we don't want to deal with. And I understand. Again, I'm sorry. Whatever happened to you, whatever offense you dealt with, I'm sorry. I hate that it happened to you, but you got to move on. Do it for you. Do it for your family. Do it for your children. All right. So we the F accounts. So we have number one, faith. Number two, family and friends. Number three, finance. Number four, fun. Number five, forgiveness. What's number six?
Number six is future.
Wow.
Number six is future. The sixth account we want to look at is the future. Where do we go next? Where do we go from here? What's our plans? What do we want our life to look like as a couple? Because you're on the Marriage Coach podcast. As a relationship, fiance, boyfriend, girlfriend, what do we want our lives to look like from here? What are our plans to get there? Because we can say, oh, we're going to get married and we're going to have 2 kids and we're going to buy a house and we're going to go back to school and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We have to have an idea of what is next for us. And we need to talk about that because you want to make sure that your idea is lining up with your significant other's idea of where you're going next, what you're going to do, where do you go from here? And then you want to talk about the kind of life you want and make sure that you're on the same page with that, or, work towards getting close to being on the same page with that. And then you have to formalize a plan. How do we get there? Because this is the thing. With anything, we could say what we want, but if we don't have a plan, we'll never get there. So we'll be 20 years saying, we're going to buy a house, we're going to buy a house, we're going to buy a house. We're not going to live in an apartment forever, we're going to buy a house. But 20 years later, we still living in an apartment because we didn't have a plan to buy the house. And every time we got a hold to money and could have bought a house, we bought other stuff. You have to have a plan. Whatever you want out of life, you can have it. You have to have a plan to get to it. It doesn't matter how much you make, how little or how much, because the truth of the matter is, back in the day, our grandparents were able to accomplish things making little bits of money. There's people if you look in history, there are people who made a difference in the world, and they were washerwomen, saving coins and help put other kids through college. Look it up. It's a fact. It's all about a plan. She had a plan. That's why she was able to do that. So you have to have a plan for your future, for your relationship. If you're listening, those that are dating, if you're dating someone and they don't have a plan for the future of what your life is going to look like, you might want to see that as a yellow flag.
Or you may want to help them get a plan.
No, I mean, when I say don't have a plan for what your life can look like, sometimes some people a person may be dating somebody and that person may feel like they just having fun. They just having a good time. And you have the hopes of marriage, future, and a kid. So that's what I'm talking about. And if they don't have a plan, if you talk about it, they can express to you what they want and what they don't want, what they see next for your relationship.
That's the thing. I mean, so if you're in the position where you're dating, this is my advice to you. Talk to them about the future. See if they have a plan. And if they don't have a plan, try to come up with a plan together. Now here's the thing. If they're not willing to come up with a plan,
that's good.
Then that's your yellow flag.
Yes.
A red flag. You may want to push your brakes there. So If they're not trying to come up with a plan, if you're concerned, especially, I mean, because think about it. If you're thinking about a plan and trying to plan your life, that means you're concerned about the future. If you hook up with somebody that's not their concern, your guys gonna have frustration.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be frustration in the marriage. Make sure they want some. Make sure they want something out of life. Some people don't want nothing.
Some people, and some it, I something sometimes I would say
You know
it's
what?
not that they don't want it.
They
It's not that they don't want it. They
they don't
just
want to
not
deal with it.
willing to do the
There
work
you
to
go.
get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I was about
So
to agree. I was
yeah,
about to
yeah,
correct you.
that's the thing. And so we said this on the last podcast, and I think it'll be said a lot because this is a marriage coach podcast. So we're talking to we're talking from a perspective of married because we're married, marriage because we're married, but we also talking about relationships period, which is dating, which is engaged. People are in different stages of relationship. And here's the thing,
No.
a lot of time all of these accounts, the 6 accounts, faith, family and friends, finance, fun, forgiveness, future, a lot of times when we're dating or engaged or whatever, wherever stage we are before marriage, we don't have these conversations. If you find yourself in any stage before marriage, whether you're single, dating, engaged, you can have these conversations prior to, and they will help you out a whole lot more. If you've already married, you've already taken the vow, you've already tied the knot, you've already exchanged the rings, you still need to have these conversations about these accounts.
Right.
You still need to have a plan for these accounts. You still need to be intentional about depositing into these accounts. You need to be intentional about reconciling these accounts and watching what's going on in these accounts. And you want to talk about the future because you're planning to spend the rest of your life with this person.
Yeah.
And you don't want to say they just happy living here. And this is, I'm not happy with this. They just happy doing nothing. And I'm not happy with that. Or you have all of these aspirations and all of these dreams. And they're saying, we all right, we paying our bills, we good. You know, you want to talk it out, but you don't, and again, we want to be clear. You don't want to just cancel somebody out because they don't have they don't have the plan in mind. If you can help them and if they're willing to do the work and they're willing to listen and listen to the plan or possibly come up with a plan, then that's great. That means that there's potential there. And it has to be more than talking. We have to create a plan and be actively working the plan after we've created the plan.
This is the Marriage Coach Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So Marriage Coach Podcast, talking to the married couple that maybe one person want to plan the future and the other one is not that concerned about it. You just do your best and do what you can do as a spouse for your family. Do what you can do and just share it with them. You have a plan, share it with them. Don't fuss at them, don't argue about it. Don't try to cause confusion.
Right.
Based on this information that you got from us, that you got on today. This is a good tools to put into place, but you utilize the tools and then just continue to show the tools to your spouse. Continue to show the tools. Share with them. Share with how it's working. Share the results. Share the evidence because I mean, some people, you have to show them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna have to be, just going back
Mm-hmm.
over about 15 years ago. I mean, it's the same thing with us. What's that?
It's a long time.
Yeah. So with yeah. So it's about maybe it's the year 6, year 7 in our marriage. I got a hold to my mind was shifted by a book I read.
Absolutely, and I was still in the same mind frame.
You're still stuck. So
and that's why
at
I said
at that particular point. I mean, it wasn't. I basically carried this as long as I could, and I kept sharing it with you.
mm-hmm.
And then what I did eventually, I shared the resources with you because as long as I was sharing it with you, you got on the defense like I'm saying that you're doing finance wrong, or you not. I mean, that's what you heard.
Yes.
I mean,
as far as the finance account, yeah.
That's what you heard. You heard that you're not doing a good job. So sometimes I mean, just introducing the information or just sharing the information. Don't talk about what somebody's already doing because I'm telling you, I'm speaking from experience. It doesn't work too well. So I told her about the new information and she took it in the mind that okay, he's saying I ain't doing a good job of what I'm doing, and that wasn't the case. But here it is. Fast forward, we in the same, we on the same page with it. So you have to give it time. We all grow. We grow on different levels. Have grace for your spouse. Love is patient, love is kind. So you make sure you have that in your relationship, where you're kind and you're being patient with your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
make sure you have grace for your spouse in all of the 6 accounts.
we'll say it again. Remember, marriage is a team sport. If you're in a relationship and you plan to be married, you're engaged, it's a team sport. So wherever one team member is weak, the one that is stronger carries the team. And your ultimate goal is to just be the example, continue to be the example. We talked about this when we started with the F account number 1. We said, Faith, carry it until the other person picks it up. Be the example to them. Family and friends, be the example. If you're telling your spouse, or if you want your spouse to know that spending appropriate time with family members and have understanding the roles, be the example of that. You don't want to be the, well, you doing it, so I'm gonna do it too. Or you ain't doing it, so I ain't gonna do it. No, for each and every account, faith, family, friends, finances, fun, forgiveness, future, you be the first example.
Yeah.
You be the first example. That's what he was talking about. And ours was the finance account that he's referring to.
I mean, but here's the thing. It's really 2 examples. 2 examples we can give right off the bat. Mm-hmm. It was finance for you, but it was faith for me. Because you remember, think about that. We're 20 years, we're 22 years into a successful marriage. Mm-hmm. So every time, your spouse is not going to always agree with you right away. That's 2 examples.
True.
2 examples. Faith, you were going to church every Sunday and I was sitting at the house. Finance, I was trying to get the finance together and you wasn't that concerned.
Yeah, I wasn't there yet.
Right. So it happens and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's not going to be like that. You just be patient. That's what we did. You was patient with me with the faith, and I was patient with you with the finance. Mm-hmm. And it worked out good. And here we are right now. Mm-hmm. We're on the same page with all 6
account.
Every account, all 6 accounts, we're on the same page.
Yeah. But it took us time to get there. You're absolutely correct.
We got to make that clear.
Yeah, it did take us time to get there. It did not, the cohesiveness over accounts did not happen overnight. It did not happen overnight. There were some accounts that there was not a struggle with. There were other accounts that there was a struggle with. There were other accounts that needed more attention than others. Absolutely. There were other accounts that needed even more attention than that, because we learned this along the way. We were introduced to this as far as goal setting, and then we shaped it and formed it to work for our marriage. And that's what we created accounts with it, and that's what we're encouraging you to do. But we're also encouraging you to understand that wherever your significant other is, wherever you are, you did not get there overnight, and it won't change overnight. But if both people are willing and have grace for each other, just like he said, you will become a cohesive team that is able to say, we are intentionally depositing in each account and we're keeping them balanced.
Yeah. So just in everything you do, just make sure you use all these accounts to F your marriage.
Right. Thank you for joining us today on the Marriage Coach Podcast. We want to remind you, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification button so that you'll be notified every time we upload an episode. We want to continue to share lessons learned and things we've applied in our 22 years of marriage. Please rate this podcast and leave a review on iTunes to help get the word out. Please also check out our Lead to Greatness podcast on YouTube and on iTunes.
Thank you once again for joining us on the Marriage Coach Podcast. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week,
as we continue to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving.